Pirate Kings, Pirate Queens, non-binary monarchs of the sea. Here we are. It's the last entry in the countdown to OP06, and oh man, what do I say here? This has been really fun. This was going to be one very, very long video until I realized how long that would take me, and splitting these up has let me go a little deeper into each deck. It's helped me learn a couple more things about each one, and I believe brought what I have to say to some new people. So to anyone who has enjoyed the data, has found this to be a fun approach to going through the decks, thank you, because as fun as this is, it was a lot this week, and y'all got me through it. I still plan to put all the profiles together along with those other big format thoughts as soon as the set comes out. But if this is your intro to the countdown, here is what we've been doing so far.
I put every single deck list from One Piece top decks and second storage into a spreadsheet, weighted each entry according to the tournament's level of competition, the list's placement in that tournament, and how far into the format that tournament took place, to come up with a point system that let me arrange the decks into tiers, as well as an algorithm to put together a typical winning deck list weighted to the conditions that I just mentioned. You'll also see helpful stats about a deck's cost curve, the amount of 2K counters, non-counters, blockers, events, and other relevant figures, so take a look and enjoy as we get into the next deck in our countdown to OP06.
Reiju Perona, Enel, Yamato, Katakuri, Moria, and number one... Oh man, I really want to troll here. No, don't say it's Iceberg. Don't say it's Newgate. Oh man, I want to say it's Queen. I wish it was Queen, but it is SAKAZUKI. So, getting right into it, I'm sure that no one is surprised. I certainly am not. The text on the leader is just too good. Consistency and control utility on one leader, where you can use both effects each turn, can't not be good. Of course, Bandai finally realized that, and the Eastern player base won't be able to play it come April. No idea how much longer we'll have him. We could see a ban in April, we could see a ban when Set 7 hits. But he'll definitely be live for at least a bit of Set 6, and I'm guessing most, if not all, of the formats, so I'm going to present this with that possibility in mind. Even beyond the consistency and the different types of removal he has, SAKAZUKI just makes blues removal, which was just balanced enough to not be completely overpowered, too efficient to compete against, just because that extra -1 cost is free. It's very fun to drag him, to naysay him, it's fun to meme, but I haven't been as dissatisfied with his reign as I was with Red, since he's a bit more skill-based, especially in the mirrors. But the fact that he shuts so many decks out of the format completely makes me fine with him going, even if I would have preferred an errata that didn't completely kneecap him. But we take the dubs where we can. The deck's general concept to control the board as much as possible and to protect life with blockers and just enough counter to survive stays the same, but these new cards in Set 6 give him more power and versatility. Search options for black, particularly the navy, have been limited with cards like Branu, but Set 6 gives us a 1-cost top 5 navy searcher into Shigi, and she is not color limited. Seeing 5 makes us even more consistent than we were before, and between her and Branu, we can just play a bunch of weenies in the early game and potentially get 3 5k swings on turn 3 with a Houndblaze. Suru's still at home here, but there is a teeny shift in how to prioritize 2ks now. Before, she was always the one you'd save because she was the more efficient reducer compared to the 3-cost Tashigi, and not recurable off of Rebecca. But now you want to get that first Suru in the discard before Adon, so you have the option to resurrect her with Moria. And that could be by using her as a 2k counter, or playing her to the field, getting your board up to 5 characters, and then sending her to the discard with your next one, potentially even that 8-cost Moria. More discard use makes Branu more useful because, he was just dead weight before. He's still playable off of Rebecca, and now off of Moria, but late game Tashigi is going to give you a wider search if you have the option to play her off Moria instead. The algorithm gave us 1 copy of Helmeppo. 2 was a pretty common count though, which I grew to enjoy. He's a nice middle ground between Suru and Hina. It sort of acts like a 5th copy of both of them in this list, while also easing some of our math. I might futz around with a second copy depending on how I feel about the amount of counter, certain matchups, and where the potential cuts might come in. The 3-cost Hina swings for 5,000 and reduces a character's cost by 4 on play. This is one of the cards that broke him in set 5. People were playing Rebecca before the list we've all come to know and accept came into being. But even beyond your standard Rebecca Hina Lucci combo, or now your Moria Rebecca Hina, there's options. We'll get into those. She's useful as a hard play sometimes as well. 4 copies of 4-cost Porcelino is what the data told me, and it's pretty nice for Moria or for the Mirror, but cutting 1 for a Sabo is also a very valid option for yellow reasons. The Sabo could still get rejected, but then it's a life that they don't get to burn. Rebecca and Lucci still enable some very degenerate 2-body removal, and Rebecca Hina Lucci is still a pretty good play. But the 8-cost Moria lets us play either of them from the trash, depending on if we want to recover resources or get multiple KOs, while still getting a huge body out. The 3-cost Ashigi that was common in set 5 has been replaced by Virgo. Not necessarily because of his in-battle stickiness, but because until EB01, he's the only 2K that can be searched by Brand New and Tashigi and recurred by Rebecca. And with decks like Yamato in the format, having easier access to our 2Ks is more important than ever. The 7-cost Porcelino is a bit overshadowed by Moria, but he might be the best play turn 4 going first, since he tucks a 5-cost with the ability, and the Mirror can only remove him with Rebecca Hina Lucci, rather than playing their own Moria. At which point the player going first can clear 2 of them with their own Moria, or hoard more resources. And speaking of Moria, what can I say about him that I haven't already? Just that he opens up even sillier multi-removal plays here than he does elsewhere, with the same walling and resource capabilities, but I'm going to get to the math of it in a second. Great Eruption is still a dummy good card, and playing it on 9 Don with Moria lets you Lucci KO any 2 characters whose costs add up to 9 with the addition of Helmeppo. But if you see multiple at the start, you could definitely burn one to get closer to your combo pieces. Ice Age really lets us go tall with our removal, but until Great Eruption is banned, we really only need 2. At least we would if SAKAZUKI would still be a leader. Playing this on 9 with the Moria Lucci Helmeppo combo lets you then KO the opponent's Moria and a 4-cost or any combo adding up to 12. Adding a Great Eruption or Tsuru on top of that gets you up to 14 costs removed in total. And if you play both Ice Age, you can get a 10 cost and a 7 cost, or a 9 cost and an 8 cost, and anything below that. Granted, it is very unlikely you will need or have the exact pieces to do so, but just the fact that it is possible in itself is astounding. Actually, wait, let's have a little fun with this. If we really want to imagine the absolute ceiling of removal we have here, we could either go -1 to something with the leader, -4 to something with the Hina, we've paid 3 at this point, both Ice Age, another -5, another -5, that's 2 more Dome we've paid for 5 in total, and a Great Eruption or Tsuru, so that's another 1 Dome we've used before the Lucci, or the Ice Age and 3 Great Eruption or Tsuru with 2 Dome left over to KO 2 10 costs. Again, no reason for this at all. That's if you're facing down 2 10 moms, that's just, I don't know what to tell you at that point, but the possibility of it. Anyway, Houndblaze added to the list of cards that broke this deck wide open in set 5 and still pulls its weight here, with more pesky on KO effects such as Kikunojo or Ryuma, and Sabo giving KO resistance in Black Mirrors. Do not be caught without it. And the last new card we have is Ama no Murakumo, a 2-cost event that tucks a 2-cost and a 1-cost. It's a Lucci effect on a 2-cost event without a trash requirement. Yeah, no, you don't get a body, but the efficiency and the tucking are nutso. I really like this one at 2, especially against yellow with all of its trigger bodies, but the algorithm decided to give us 1. In my testing with this deck, and I'm ashamed to say how much fun doing this was, but my favorite play was to go Moria into Rebecca to bring back a Hina and a Helmeppo to then tuck any 2 characters who add up to 11. So if you're in a Black Mirror, you're tucking the Moria and the Hina that they have on board, and you get set up a blocker. How many times can I call a card stupid? This is stupid, at least for the time it has a home in SAKAZUKI. Then, who knows if we're ever going to see this again. Whew, man, all of this Oh, all this rage in my heart toward this deck, even though I find it really fun to play because I'm just a toxic control player, just makes me need to relax, and I think some stats will help us do that. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the most centralized we've seen any of these decks card pools, at least as far as whether these cards are included or not. The fact that we are 12 cards in before we get to something that is played in less than 90% of these decks really tells us just how strong and how reliable this whole engine is. I do very much want to find more room for a second Murakumo or a second Helmeppo. Looking at this, it's really hard to find something to get rid of. Part of me wants to say bring down Borsellino to 3, but I already want that to be a Sabo. It's so strong, but it's also such a delicate machine, you know? What was that? This needs to get banned right now. I can't be talking like that. I think an earlier iteration of the algorithm, before I brought the post-Star Deck 13 stuff, actually had Helmeppo only at 1, and I think that Helmeppo was the second Murakumo, so take that for what you may. And just a few elective cards here. Tashigi, still a great card. Definitely not worth replacing our Virgos or our Tsurus because she's just less searchable, but if you want more 2Ks, she's the best option you have. I've talked about Sabo. I like the idea of Sabo. I like the idea of one Sabo in particular. That's going to be working his way in. Kuzan's very in theme, but the space is already so tight, and there are already so many cards that do similar things to him, including our leader ability. Pudding did see some play here, just like she did in Reiju. It's very cheeky. It's very, very rude of this Sakazuki, of this Admiral, to enlist this sweet girl who has never betrayed anyone or done anything wrong in her life into his evil, evil schemes. But I like the idea of putting in Sakazuki, especially off Moria. It's just, oh no, putting off Moria, that's so degenerate. 3000 Worlds is one of my favorite cards as a Blue Croc stan, but it's going to be a hard sell given the amount of other great cards we have for Fordone and the fact that it doesn't give us a body to distract our opponent from our life. Barto's very cool, but blockers are a bit precarious here. He's, I could see some argument for him as a 9th 2K counter if you can find the space. And Jion could work in the mirror against Nami, any of these event-heavy decks. I think she's pretty cool. Sakazuki just got so much more power in a very small addition to its card pool. But the power creep for the other colors do require the pilot to really think about what they'll need for their ideal play turns in advance, and know whether they should focus on removal or defense at any given moment. And one wrong discard off the leader effect is going to be all the more brutal. All joking, seething, coping aside, well, maybe not coping aside, let me know if you think this is cope. Basically, I've gone on about the ceiling of this deck's combos, but you'll still only have so many pieces to work with in a game. So you'll probably need to pick one turn to pause your removal and focus on tempo or defense so that you can last through the game and make the most of these insane late game plays we've been talking about. These may come down to a battle of 8 Morias, but I think that the mirrors are going to be even more interesting in Set 6, so Sokka will at least go out in a blaze of something, glory, volcanoes, justice. No, not justice. This is not justice. That new leader is so bad. That's not justice. Anyway, enjoy Op Format Part 2. Insert NCIS, CSI, whatever procedural show theme here, and let's see what pops up with the bands when they come our way. And there we have it, the final deck, the number 1 deck of One Piece Set 6, Wings of the Captain. All in all, I know this may not be the most appealing answer to the question of what's the strongest deck in the format, but for all the strength he's gained, there are ways to fight him. So I think that this will be a very interesting, and I'm gonna say it, I think this is going to be a fun format. But I will end my thoughts there for now and leave any other reflections, opinions, or speculation for the big compilation video that I'm going to be releasing on Friday, the set release day. Woo! But either way, I hope you have enjoyed this exploration of Sakazuki's new iteration. If you have had fun listening to this or any other videos in the countdown, or if you found anything I had to say useful, feel free to leave a like. If you have your own hot takes on Sakazuki being number 1 according to the data, whether you agree or disagree with your own experience, I'd love to hear them down below. And if you want to support the channel and potentially give me just that little bit more motivation to make another video before Set 7 comes out, I'm just kidding, we're probably doing some for EVO1. But again, anyone who has interacted with me or encouraged me throughout this series of videos has been a huge help in the process, and I would be so thankful if you subscribed. This is Sakura Kingdom. I'm gonna prep myself for more meetings with the man stuck behind the desk, and I'll see you soon.